chat it up with my daughter.
It's recorded.
Okay, perfect.
So then just stop whenever you're hearing something.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Is it this one? No, that's Stacy's. I'll put my desk. Right. See you tomorrow.
How you doing?
So to figure out if and what business do you do? Just out of curiosity, what business do you do?
Oh, we do it.
So you're in competition with Aspen Ranch.
Well, no, I'm kind of low key.
What region are you?
Everything out on the peninsula.
Okay.
You know, I've got 7 clients out there.
Yeah, whatever.
They're wonderful people.
Send it to me.
It's really low key. Yeah, I have one of my clients is like right next to the Bobby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're not
Just on the
in
way.
a home that's, right below them, kind of.
Okay.
On the beach, is that the one?
No, a little bit toward the, where they have all the kayak beaches.
Oh, okay.
All right, we will start the meeting and call it order.
Not front row driving.
Since you so happen to be our first one, you can join us. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. So what we're gonna do is, we'll start out by introducing ourselves and then we'll take turns going down the lines of questions. So like I said, my name is Brenna Clark. I'm born and raised in Lincoln. I actually had 2 daughters that go to school here. One already graduated. That's pretty much all of them.
My story very similar. I grew up here, went to school here. Both my daughters, one graduated, one's still in school, and I've lived and worked in Lincoln the whole time.
Scott Fry, and I did not grow up here. But I did have 2 boys that did graduate from there.
I'm Doug Bengal, and I haven't grown up yet. And I work over in Powell County for the road department, and my wife and I have 1 son here in school.
Billy Sierra, I grew up here, I got 2 kids in school.
All right, so now that you know about us, we'll start with the first question. We know a little bit about you from your applications, but a member of our audience may not. Can you tell us about yourself?
Sure, Tom Barnett, and as far as my professional experience, in education about 30 years. I retired in 2018, and getting that to that point, graduated from UC Davis and near Sacramento, and immediately moved to the mountains and lived in, for the better part of 12 years, in Meade, California, which is on the north slope of Mount Shasta. I was single, way into outdoor recreation, and small K-8 school, taught middle school science, coached all sports, department chair, and loved it. One of my fellow teachers worked overseas, part of the international kind of teaching circuit. We teach a lot of embassy kids and things like that. And I taught for 3 years in Caracas, Venezuela. Again, middle school science, and coached at the high school level down there. Enjoyed it, got to explore kind of the northern region of South America, work on Spanish, and loved it. During that time, our school had a very gracious staff development program where they would pay for all of your summer staff development. Being fairly pragmatic, I found a master's program. Got a master's in education leadership at San Diego State. It was this program just for international educators because they were all Canadian. So got to work with learn a lot about the Canadian school system. But I got my master's in California, which allowed me to then obviously be qualified to be a principal and eventually superintendent. Moved back to the Mount Shasta area and taught 5th and 6th grade self-contained classes for 4 years there. Accepted my first K-8 elementary principal job in Hayfork, California. If you're familiar at all with the northern part of California, there's some extremely rural areas. And I would say Hayfork's is the greatest small little town in Trinity County. Sierra Pacific Mill closed in '96. I moved in 2000. A lot of the issues that come with it, obviously unemployment, drug poverty, and things like that. I was principal at the elementary for 2 years, and then they asked me, it was a unified school district, they asked me to be the high school principal. And so I was the high school principal in the small town. Football games, kicking drunks out of games, I mean, just the whole 9 yards. And I just loved the school. Super academic, super great programs. We had dropped music, we brought it back. It had been dropped before I got there. Really focused a lot on, athletics was always a pride of the community. We maintained that, but really brought in the arts. One thing through that time, California was going through a really hardcore academic accountability phase in which we called it the Academic Performance Index. Kids took a test, and you were given a number, and that number was rated against all the other high schools in California. And little old Hayfork was in the top 10% of the state, and so I was very proud of that. We prided ourselves in the fact that our remote nature, though it had challenges and didn't look at like what you might see at Hellgate High School in Missoula, was not a liability. And because of our small class sizes, because of our relationships with our students, we could really succeed. Was there for 11 years, and then I say the Yankees came calling. And when I say that is all the good baseball players out there eventually go to the Yankees, right? And I think they regret it. But the big district in the county, 45 minutes away, came calling to be their superintendent, and I went for it. And I was there for 7 years. I think they were very attracted to me. I think our programs were solid. Our drama program had just taken off. And I never knew I was a big fan of drama until I saw what it did for so many of the students. It got some of our students who wouldn't even consider drama, to get involved, and then it also brought in a lot of other kids who might not have been in the traditional, maybe sports, and things like that. And so I went there. I think they were very interested because fiscally I find myself fairly conservative, and they were on the fiscal cliff. There's no doubt. And it's called receivership in California when we no longer maintain the adequate reserves, and you're approaching insolvency. So radical, I wouldn't say radical, they were just best practice financial kind of reforms, and to kind of right that ship. I think along that way, you probably offended a few stakeholders, and so I retired at when I was eligible, and that was there 7 years. So that's kind of the 2 kids, both at U of M, great life. She taught at Knoxon. Been following you guys on basketball. And boys went to Clark High School, just over the border there on Highway 2. And just built a house. Enjoyed doing that with the boys. So I was able to be retired while they were in high school. And just they're gone now, and getting a little interested in getting back in the game.
Okay. When budgets are tight There are no easy choices in making budget reductions. How would you approach making difficult choices such as staff reductions, facility closures, and elimination of education programs?
It's coming right up the gates. I think this is an area that I have a lot of familiarity with. And I think the number one thing I just wrote down is communication. I think people have to understand how the budget works. And they have to know you're not hiding things. You have to be very transparent. And you also have to, it's communication with obviously the board and your staff and the community at large. And in this day and age, it's hard to get out there even with everything available to us. But I think understanding, like, establishing priorities and like what we value the most and what are non-negotiables, what are legal requirements, and then what we can afford to do that. And if we don't, potentially what are the ramifications if we delay that. So how would I approach the difficult choices? Sometimes it's lonely as the superintendent, but I think when you really work well, I think I explained it in my application, is the initial board that hired me in my last district recognized their fiscal challenges and 100% supported that. 6 years later, after granting me a 4-year extension, which is the maximum allowed in the state, they all decided we don't want to be on the board. They kind of trickled off, but in the 6th, 7th year, I found myself with a new board, and they had not gone through what that previous board had gone through. And I also found myself having conversations with them that like, oh, you don't get it. And so I just think is getting out there and then prioritizing, what you are as a school and making sure people understand those decisions you have to make.
Tell us how you develop, use, and enforce school board policies.
I've been looking at Montana policies and you guys use them kind of the same way, other states do. I look at policies, an issue arises. A kid's running out on Highway 200. I don't go to the policy book and look up what I should do. You go help the kid. It's I think to use the policy as one of, I'll go back to communication tool is a great, like, look, this is in board policy. This is what is expected. Policies are only as good as, one, your familiarity with them, 2, keeping them up to date, 3, making sure those policies say what they should. So the language that you need, I know Elizabeth is here as an attorney, but is making sure when you develop them, you're on firm legal standing. But I think policies can be an absolute invaluable tool for the board through the superintendent to implement their vision. But it's also a great tool to get you through a nasty bullying situation. It could be a great tool to look at facilities. We had a beloved individual who passed in our community, and a very small minority, but very vocal, wanted to name the gymnasium after they moved. And like, okay, it's not my choice. And there's policies you have to go through to name something after it. And it eventually died, but it was something that was very nice to have. And say, this is not me saying no, this is actually what's in policy put out by the state.
Do you feel that articulating a district vision and mission and setting goals is important for a board? What do you see as your role in this process?
My buddy got into the tech business, and he was touring me their facility, and it was at night, so no one was there. And on every header, the header, because it's kind of an open office kind of business area, and on every header, it had their vision, parts of their vision. And I was a big administrator, we did all the classes, on visions and stuff like that. And, oh, that's John, that's so cool. I just love it. And he looks up and he starts laughing. He goes, yeah, this used to be the headquarters of Noah's Bagels, and that's their vision. And we just kind of liked it because it kind of fit with our technology and stuff. So I say that kind of like is I've read your mission statement on, of course, and what's it mean? And what's it mean every day at Lincoln K-12 school? So I think establishing a vision, what do you want kids here to look like? And I believe it was December's newsletter, it was published, because you guys went through accreditation. It was don't tell me I have it written down, the portrait of the graduate and stuff. And so, okay, what do I want a graduate to look like? So I think, establishing a vision of what the board expects is critical. And then establishing what does that look like and how can we measure it is also, important. I think in your goal setting, that should be part of the superintendent's evaluation is like, what's that going to look like, for us to have a critical thinker? And, or you just do those mindless activities and they sit there up on the wall and they don't really do anything. So I think articulating it all the way down to the staff it's a small enough staff that I would hope, the principal superintendent is communicating daily, but having really in-depth conversations with the teachers of what's critical thinking look like in your classroom? What does, sorry, I haven't memorized, lifelong learner or global citizen and things like, because everybody uses that language. I would like to be a part of the process that has implemented it with very measurable, how am I going to measure that, to see if we're successful or not. And because if you can't measure it, then you can't figure out how to improve. And my role in the process is I work and help guide the board, create their vision, funnel through the superintendent to implement that.
Describe the kind of relationship you want to have with the board members of this district.
I think pretty open, not pretty open, very open. I think that relationship, this meeting is run by Brenna as your chair, and so there has to be a relationship there because you're setting the agenda and things like that. I think it's got to be open, and I think it's got to be just unquestionably professional. I am somebody that loves to brainstorm. I love to just think outside the box, throw something out there, and I don't expect to hear it down at the diner 2 days later. It was obviously something I said, and it wasn't ready to go out, to the public or something like that. So I think that relationship where a board member could call me, I could call a board member. Obviously, you can't call 3 because you're creating a necessarily, but, hey, Scott's got a relationship, and familiarity with this one program. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? You know, maybe a little history with the district, and so I would like you know, just an open, professional. Sometimes, you know, I'm good friends with some of the board members that, you know, I work with, but that doesn't mean that they were, you know, more important or less important than, it's just ones that we can figure out how to best meet the needs of our district. I think that relationship's critical.
Let's say that you are attending a community meeting when a speaker makes a statement about the school district which is negative and not true. What would you do?
That's a great question. One thing I think, sometimes you gotta swallow it. And, but other times you have to address it. You have to know, you know, when it's appropriate. This day and age, if you say it, it's gotta be true. If it's online, it's gotta be true. You know, if somebody mentioned and stuff. So, you know, and some of the terms used nowadays, you know, controlling your narrative and all that. But I think one, when a community member would do that, I would always have a one-on-one conversation. I didn't care who it was. I would never, ever, if it was appropriate to address the group that they said it to at the time and say, oh, well, actually, you know, that's not true, and here's the facts, and stuff like that. And if you could do it, but you would never, embarrass them or anything. It's not said. But I think it's always so important to just have a one-on-one conversation with them and try to understand their point of view and do it respectfully. And then a lot of times those folks are folks that you can bring around and you can make, you know, they've had a bad experience. They've had, you know, something and you're the new guy. And so like, hey, let's sit down. But I would never ever hesitate to have that one-on-one conversation.
What communication approach is most effective for you with teachers?
Conversations. That's what I love about small schools. I had right before I got my first principal job, I had a principal superintendent who the staff was really having issues with him. And I saw why, but he loved me and I liked having that relationship with him. But we go to meetings and I finally, and it wasn't because, you know, it was training, it was just because I hate going to meetings when they don't have points. You know, like I don't want to sit here. But sometimes meetings should just be brainstorming. That's great. As long as they're just not dominated by, you know, just like everybody gets opportunities and stuff. But I finally told Bob privately, I just go, you know, Bob, it would be great in a memo, you would give us where you'd like us to line up at fire drills. I don't want to talk about that for 20 minutes. Because, you know, somebody wants, and we're spending 20 months talking about, you know, no, we're going out there and you're going to line up here, here, and here. Tell me where you want me to line up. Oh, how best to, you know, implement this reading program? That's a conversation that's going to take a while in the staff meeting. So direct conversations, love about small schools. And then two, having one-on-one conversations with, or whole group brainstorming sessions. But three, putting out in writing the stuff that, like, tomorrow staff meeting, 3:00. and then we can have a conversation about that. That is something that I think somebody can kind of just make that decision.
What have you found to be the best ways to communicate with your board?
So I don't know about you, but you probably don't like to have board meetings more than once a month. And I think your community doesn't like you to have them more than once a month. And I've been in communities where a special board meeting, oh, what's going on? You know, and people start, oh, really gonna start getting going. So I have found a quick email every Friday or Thursday. That, hey, this is what's going on, you know, this is what happened this week. Sometimes it could, hey guys, have a great weekend, not a whole, you know, great week, you know, kind of thing. But hey, some things to think about, you know, hey, Billy, can you give me a call, you know, or, you know, each of you give me a call so I can give you a little bit more information on a couple things. But I think regular meetings that, you know, communication is, because it's only once a month. And I think you have to communicate with your board more than that, a lot more than that. And hopefully it's all good stuff, but board members should not like hearing something for the first time from the audience. You know, if there's an issue, they would like to be somewhat, you know, savvy with it. New board members, I do like to sit down and spend a lot of time going over the roles and functions of what a board member's duties are. I think that's and I'm sure Montana School Board Association has a lot of, you know, materials that are very useful.
What do you believe are the best ways for a district to monitor student achievement?
Well, one thing that stuck out when I was doing some research is you got Joni here, who I know is your testing coordinator, and I love the fact that you have a school size someone. Of course, you have somebody designated to do it, but you know, she's I know she's, correct me if I'm wrong, Joni, but in charge of the big line items, you know, the ones that are comparing you to other schools within the state and the national stuff. I believe the best way, I loved that no nonsense. I don't want to make fun of California because I didn't like. I'm not a refugee. It wasn't like that, you know. I don't, but anyway, our no nonsense student achievement monitor was something that it was black and white, and of course with California it's become all fluffy, and you can't even weed through like how's the kid doing, you know, and stuff like that. I think educating on the board on what the test scores mean is really important, and having really great board discussions on student achievement. Student achievement, however, is not solely measured with your standardized testing. However, it has its place. I like to work with teachers in, you know, how does their fourth grade class in preparation for them, what does it look like? I think there's a place for that. Does it mean teach the test? No. Does it mean getting the kids ready to do well and show and use that as a measuring gap? Yes. The best way for a district to do that is to make sure that you implement, and we have some phenomenal ones, measures that will measure you along the way throughout the year, 6 weeks, on a quarterly basis. So, you know, it's not a shock that the kids did well in March or whenever, when the month before. You know, and some people like want to pigeonhole you, oh, you just want to teach the test, and I go, no, I want to celebrate why our kids are doing so well, or behind the scenes, I want to figure out why they're not, and work with them to make sure they're prepared. I've been impressed, my wife working at Knox, and with some of what you guys have in place in this state, because we went from California to Idaho, and it didn't exist. You know, and this is from a parent that, you know, had a pretty good background in things. And so, you know, having sons at University of Montana as a freshman, you know, taking math, they both did well, but it was a shock. You know, and it shouldn't have been like that, because they got straight A's in high school. So, like, how'd they get that A, but they can't do this? I don't get that. So, yeah, those are
What is the most important job of a superintendent, and what is the best use of your time?
good question. The most important job of a superintendent. I'm going to take the liberty to say that because this district has a superintendent and principal, I'm going to kind of blend the two. I became interested to make the transition. I became interested in becoming a principal because I was spending more time at school than a principal. And I go, why don't I get paid what that guy gets paid? Well, no, and I was just interested. I was ready. But you know, if you're coaching, you're an athletic director, you're doing all these things, you're there all the time. So, but the superintendent job is really fascinating me because I don't think I had a very good back. I didn't have a very formal business background. Most of us don't. We're educators, and you have to learn finance. And I still struggle with it. I'll be honest. It's still something that, but you surround yourself with good people, and you ask good questions. But the most important job of superintendent, I would say, is the fact of establishing the goals of the district with the board and implementing them throughout the school with the city. Board, superintendent, you know, and implementation. Best use of your time. I love the job because every day's a new day. You never know what's going to come out of it. You're playing center field, and you know you're catching a fly ball. It's grounder. It's who knows what it's coming out of. You do not leave your job, your desk, unless everything for the next day that has to get done is done before you leave, because you have no idea what's going to walk through your door at 8 o'clock in the morning, and that can shift your entire day, and importantly so, student safety issues, things like that. So the best use of your time, getting out there and being with staff and students. If you ask that, one thing, I think that's most enjoyable too. But is being aware of what's going on by being out there.
Alright. Tell us about an unpopular decision you had to make, and what did you learn?
We have these things in California called developer fees. And, you know, it's not an election. You can assess a developer fee on new construction. And this is just one example of packing the board. So we had facility needs, and developer fees when assessed. You get X percentage on the square footage of the home, less the rate for commercial. And you can only use the funds for facilities. and we had facilities needs. And to accomplish some of the goals that we had set out, superintendent's job, I think, is to, hey guys, we're not taking advantage of this revenue source. We're not. On average, for the last 10 years, it would have been $300,000 per year for the district. I think that kind of adds up. We could have done an extension of the gymnasium, a few things. We did a big modernization project at our elementary school, would have been paid for, wouldn't have. Do any sort of volunteer work or anything like that. So I think that was unpopular, and what I would have done differently, probably because I was kind of on the younger side of my, was there's a lot of attacks personally. We had just built a house, so we weren't going to have to pay for you're purposely did this. I'm not that smart, I think, but I think I wouldn't have taken it nearly as personally as I did. It's just, it's the job. Hey board, here's a revenue source. We could use it for these things. It's popular for, obviously, it's more money for the district. It's unpopular because people, so the contractors in town thought people would stop building. The lumberyard in town, people would stop buying lumber and stuff. So that was unpopular, and I probably wouldn't have taken it as personal. And always you can look to communicate things, something along the way.
Explain your plan to foster and develop a positive working atmosphere.
I am not a huge fan. I'm not against it. It's just not my personality. I think I'm incredibly sincere. If I say it, I mean it. And I think I show up to work every day with that. I don't think anybody would ever question honesty. And I think I treat people, every stakeholder, incredibly professionally. I do like to joke around. I do like to have fun. But I would always start at the beginning of the first staff meeting at the orientation days, and I wish everybody a happy birthday. Because I said, I'm not going to remember your birthday. And I'm sorry, but I might or I might not. I just, that's not, but I think with fostering, I think it's by example. I think, wow, this person puts in the time. Wow, this person follows through. I just think warm, caring, sincere, right, but just a great work ethic and just kind of subtly, I expect that from everyone.
What do you consider as your most significant accomplishments as an educator, administrator that may or may not be spelled out in your resume?
I love little anecdotal, stories, but I'd say Bubba Fry. And Bubba Fry was born and raised in Haywood. Dad was actually an Alaskan fisherman, not a lot. And real name's Dennis. That's folks. I'm going Bubba Fry. And Bubba got a 4 on the advanced placement art history. So let me explain. We're all familiar with advanced placement classes. And if you score 3 or better out of 5, you receive college credit for that. Bubba wasn't going to go to college. He was going to workforce. Great. But he wasn't academic in the sense that I wouldn't say he got straight A's. But little old Hayfork High School, I'm so proud of the programs that we offered, so that a student, not online, the student got direct instruction every day in art history, which is, when you think of AP classes, you think of US history, English 12, AP bio, the standard, core curriculum. And we offered art history. The only reason why we took it was because of teacher. And she was the most beloved teacher I've ever met in my life. Very, very caring, very, very good. And Bob, I'm not going to take that. I'm a senior. I just want to screw around. And, very small school. So I'm sitting doing the counseling and I'm signing them up for classes. They go, Bob. His little brother's name, Boomer. And I said, no, you're going to take it. And so the best thing I think was my relationship with the students, so that regardless of their backgrounds, I have a relationship that we could have really great conversations. And, I've moved kids out of houses because they were in abusive relationships. My wife and I went through the foster parent protocols because we had kids living in our home temporarily, or temporary foster. But I just think the accomplishments I saw with individual students that you don't necessarily get to quantify with your data, but they're the most meaningful. The hugs you get after graduation of kids who, it's not the, I mean, kids were up visiting us this last summer. They were great athletes, great, they had college degrees and stuff. But it's the kids that are in your office pretty often. You develop these relationships with them. I don't know. That's what I'm talking.
Give us some idea of how you judge your own effectiveness as a superintendent, and how would you expect the board to evaluate your work?
I'm pretty anal about holding myself to a higher standard than you. I'm pretty critical. I'm pretty self-critical. Effectiveness, I think, comes through feedback, and the feedback you're getting from your different stakeholder groups, I think, judges effectiveness. And making the changes and admitting your faults. And I think if you look at like my qualifications for the position, this guy's not familiar with Montana. Okay, yeah, you're right. But I think my ability to work with staff and community, and I don't know. I'm okay saying I don't know. You guys call things PRI days. I don't know what that means. But it's a staff and service day if you're in a different state. You just call it something different. So my own effectiveness would be through feedback, knowing my own effectiveness, and also my ability to ask questions. And I'm okay not have experience, but I don't know how would I expect the board to evaluate your work is, having fairly good communication and then setting goals. And then having those goals be met would be, I think, the best way to do it.
In what areas do you feel you need additional training or experience?
I think the obvious one is, if you guys offered and I accepted, I would qualify for, I believe it's a Class 5C administrative license in the state of Montana, which is, you have 3 years to become fully licensed. And I have to take like a few months, like 3 or 4 months. And my wife went through a similar thing when she transitioned. And I think it's great. And so that's the obvious one. But the additional training or experience, I'm kind of a geek with education, and I like to read about it. And I will have a lot of things to get familiar with, just like I mentioned, with just how things are done. And I like that because I can then, that'll be part of my orientation with staff, is get to know them, because I'll be going to them a lot and say, how do we do this? Or how do you do this here? Or what did this, like the instructional minutes. There's an instructional minute in the state of Montana. Don't ask me what it is. I couldn't find it. It's driving me crazy. But I can tell you what it is in California. And okay, you guys on a 4-day week, you obviously still have to make instructional minutes. You obviously do so. I look forward to that, because I will never come out and say, why are you doing it this way? I can't stand it when the administrators do that. You guys use Infinite Campus. I'm a power school guy. I had somebody come into a district that I left, but I still lived in the district, and we nailed power school. It was implemented, it is great, but because the new superintendent principal was only familiar with Aries, she made the district spend thousands of dollars, I knew one, plus the anxiety and training it caused the staff that had already done that with, the power school. So I look forward to the questions and the sort of training that I'll need. And I know also working with the Office of Public Instruction will be, get up to speed with that.
Are there other things that you would like us to know about you that we have not covered in this meeting?
I kind of said, it's just, and it's in my application, I was able to be a dad during my boys' high school year. That was awesome. I was always their superintendent. Hours are long. Probably in the district that I retired from, it was at least 3 nights a week. You're getting 10, 12 at night. And I was able to do that. And I volunteered, I did the clock. In the pandemic era, I became an essential worker. But I got to, I did the clock, I did the book and stuff. I announced football games. Got involved in the booster club, but I was just able to be a dad. That was great. But yeah, kind of wanting to, getting kind of interested. There's a lot of fascinating things that are upon us in education. I don't think it's harder. I don't think it's worse. I just think it's new challenges, and I enjoy this. I think working with a community that wants to, I hope, embrace differences of opinion. I do expect from staff that I love dynamic conversations, but when I disagree with Scott with something, or we go Scott's way, you'll never ever hear me. You'll never, it's okay, that's the way we're going. So, I like working with people and getting through some of those challenges that are upon it. I guess, a question, on the board is what are you looking for in a superintendent? And I look at my candidacy, oh, he's from California, that's strike one. Two, there's been this break in service, and stuff. When I kind of look at the break in service as being a plus, but I look at what's the best fit. What are your needs? What's upon you guys, and what candidate is the best fit? And I'm confident that I'd be a good fit for this community. That's just something that I've had a good feel.
That's it. Any other questions that we have for you? Do you have any questions?
We have 9 minutes. I'd love to make you guys write this on a piece of paper so you couldn't be influenced by a fellow board member, but I won't. But what are the most pressing issues? It's you come to these and like, oh, I'm the greatest candidate you've ever met, and we're the greatest school district, everybody's nice, but it's a community, it's got issues, and it's got, you guys too high seeds in basketball. I love what I see with your extracurriculars. Your class sizes are unheard of. You got K-12 Jesus, you got K-12 art, you got solid CTE program. But what are the issues? Like if you could say, like, the number one thing we're wrestling with right now is, I've watched each.
Leave that up to board president.
I've watched each board meeting, except for your last one, because it wouldn't load. But,
Well, I think that we went quite a while with not having the correct maybe person in this spot. So we've been doing a lot of cleanup thanks to these three. So it has been a wild year of getting a lot of things straightened back out, and with some new board members as well. So I think everything is starting to smooth out. So really what we need is somebody to come in that has the knowledge and capacity to take it over as we have with Kathy and all her knowledge, and somebody who is actually willing to learn how she likes things done and how the school likes things done and how the board likes things done, and is willing to work with us on that. Anybody have anything to add? Yeah.
We ain't got enough time.
Yeah, how long do we have?
And I feel like with Lincoln, it's always as long as I can remember and hammer on their budget issues. Small town. It's grown a little bit, but that's always a concern.
Yeah, that'd be budget, would be at the top of my list priority that I can think of. You've dealt that with everywhere. Some years it's worse than others.
I would agree with that, but then there's also the aspect of the community, and when you start talking to the community, there's always different groups that have different problems and issues too, that don't always seem to make it to the top that it should be. So there's a lot of important things that we deal with, but there's a lot of, I think, underlying things in our community too that the community members would like to see addressed too someday.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's the white one.
They're getting, that's the white one.
Not all yellow.
No, it's the white one. bus was down this morning, so,
Oh, it was?
yeah.
We
were
can't,
waiting for
we
a
can't,
park.
we weren't allowed to do that, so they had me up.
All right, Doug.
Well, I just wanna thank you guys, for taking the time.
That's so exciting, sorry.
That's really sweet. I wish you luck. And, look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for taking the drive. Hopefully the roads were fine.
Oh, it's fine.
Well, it was very nice to meet you.
Have a safe trip.
Yeah, have a safe trip
Oh,
home.
yeah. This was
Baby.
over.
Oh.
I know, mine too, right?
I know.
Oh, I think so.
go.
Did the girls go with
I think Wendy's.
Kathy, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.
I think they're taking that.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Okay.
You're a little hop across.
Yeah, I was trying to make
dribble, shoot.
Did you get it on video? No. Anybody? I think Shanda was gonna.
We got nothing. Thank you. This is from Mac.
Thank you. Of course, she probably got this 3 weeks ago. Yeah. I know, she said that she would record it. I'm gonna send it to the truck.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I was surprised when it came out.
I'm sorry. Oh, we're gonna try and eat.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I got a text that said, the bus is running,
Yeah.
so we feed it out of there. It's not decorated to the nines, but I figure at the next level, we can decorate a little bit more.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, perfect, I'll grab it.
Run. Run.
Last time we started, no, they didn't start.
We'll wait for you.
I understand.
Yeah, we still have, Elizabeth still has to get us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need you. We need the sheet.
I'm
Sorry.
I had dessert already.
That's a good idea.
Oh, there's so. There was a time that we could have done that with budget.
Back in the day, I have a snack bar in my purse. They have a snack bar over there.
Where's some snacks?
No, you're good.
I don't know when they are. The PTSO cookies and like strudels.
Lemon bars?
The lemon bars.
Oh, I love bars.
There's something they were debating whether or not it had bananas or something.
So something could be released. Uh-huh, yeah, if it had banana in it.
Well, lemons
Like
are
be
fruit.
vitamin C. Is there Rice Krispies?
No, I said lemons are fruit. You got lemon bars. The lemon
I
bars.
like the way that you think.
Totally healthy.
I've ate like 15 Valentine's. I should go get some. I should get a couple. I should probably do something. At least you haven't been eating raisin bread every day. You now have sourdough that just keeps going in. Did my mom give you a starter? She did.
Sourdough pancakes.
You never asked my mom for a starter. She offered me.
Big pancakes.
Kind of worth it. My mom makes sourdough bread
Oh,
every
we
day.
had sourdough.
Every day.
She went ahead, and then all of a sudden, my arms was like,
She made it every day.
did I not stop?
Every day in the house.
Texted me later. I went to you, and we went to you, and bumped the thing, and the arm went out, and she's like, I just wanted to let you know. What thing? How did I stop? But I was saying,
She was putting the arm out.
Juice?
And then accidentally bumped the whatever.
Keep start pounding it out.
I know, like, those, I think that's how you smell, not a relative term.
That's true. Yeah, if they were wonderful coming up, I know it's the temperature drop.
There was nothing adventurous.
Good.
Let's put it that way. There's sometimes when roads are truly an adventure. Actually, no. Montana keeps theirs reasonably nice. In relative terms, the only section that really
Oh
gets
my
me is
gosh.
that part coming out
We
from beach to Miles City. They don't like that part. They don't, no, that one section is not. Yeah. But.
Ready when you are. Okay, where's Mrs. Oh, we're, yeah, just waiting for. What did you get there? I saw him how he ran to the restroom. What's that?
He didn't tell us about those. He was keeping those to himself.
It doesn't matter now.
I wanna see you. Oh, there's Annie over there. 5 ways.
How are you?
Is it like okay, good, good.
Yeah.
Is this there though? There you are. I thought you were back in.
Oh, Kathy's husband.
Is it filling?
I'm talking about Jim.
Yeah.
Made the lemon bar.
Yeah.
I can eat them all.
You don't believe me,
Joni,
I'm
do you
telling
wanna?
He's a good cook.
Since my
Yeah.
last birthday,
Joni.
I don't eat near as much.
Joni.
Joni.
Can you get the door?
No.
For me, please. Pretty please, I asked nicely. Shut it.
Answer the door. I don't know what you want me to do.
Somebody's knocking, can you get that?
Which door? That is probably the best question right
All right, we will get started. So we will start with introducing ourselves and then we'll get into the questions. So my name is Brenna Clark, born and raised here in Lincoln. I have 2 daughters, one that graduated, one that's a junior. Still in school, she just took off in the bus.
there. Congratulations. With all the fanfare.
Thank you.
I'm Julie Zarski. I too grew up here. My kids, one graduated here, the other's still in school, and always lived and worked here. So
I'm Scott Fry. I'm not from here, and I had 2 sons graduate from Lincoln.
I'm Doug Mengel, and my wife and I have 1 son here in school, and I'm not from here.
Billy Sear, I grew up here and I've got 2 boys in school.
I like next.
All right, so we know a little bit about you from your application, but the member of our audience don't. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Oh, there are new people. Okay. People from earlier. All right. So where to start in that? I've been in education for about 30 years now, a little over 30 years. I started actually when California went to 20 to 1, and I was given 10 kids out of 2 different classes. The teachers got to pick. And so the adventure started. And from that point on, I have taught everything, literally, from kindergarten all the way through master's students. So I've taught high school English. We don't want me to teach high school science. That's not a good fit because I blow things up. But I've even taught ag classes. I write curriculum for classes when I have kids that need different curriculum because my specialty is in curriculum. But throughout all of throughout that time, I was often asked to mentor. I was asked to lead. I was asked to come in and do the administration. One year, I had an administrator that she had back surgery, and so I had to teach a 6th grade class, mentor a kindergarten class, and then actually be the administrator. And I fell in love with supporting and loving on teachers and families. And I discovered, ooh, I think I need to do administration. And so I started that shift as I slid over. So I've been doing it for a little over 10 years, a little bit more than that. But when the opportunity arose, I continually moved because I grew up in rural California. I know California is a bad word, but I grew up in rural California. And as towns grew, I moved away. I kept going away and further away and further away. I actually ended up in one of the most rural counties of California, but also the most poverty-stricken California county, where 98% of my kids were free and reduced, which was actually a beautiful opportunity for me to better understand some of the issues that can arise in some of the smaller towns. Loved doing that, but then the opportunity, because my aunt and uncle had set a precedence that when I was a kid, I was like, I want to do that someday. And that is going overseas and being a teacher overseas. Only I went over and I was an administrator overseas. So I've led schools in Indonesia, in Sudan, and in Mongolia. Was a lot of fun to do that. I learned a lot. Was able to actually set up a SPED program in Indonesia. I cleaned up a lot of programs. The school in Mongolia was the American school, so I was able to bring in a lot of new things to that. Had a lot of learning opportunities doing all of those things. But when my youngest, I have 3 children, 2 of them are grown, but when my youngest said to me, Mommy, I want to go home for high school. I want high school at home. We agreed we would go back to the area of Minnesota or whatever, and because that's where my family originated from, was in Wilmer. And so I was able to go back, be able to be with family. My daughter got the whole family thing because we've been in California and hadn't had as much family, so we've had that. And fell in love actually with the school in North Dakota that I landed at because it was small. And we bounced back and forth. When I started at the school, we were at about 155. By the end of the year, we were pushing 200 just simply because of the programs that I was able to get grants for and be able to build in the school. So I've been all around the world. I've had the chance to teach a lot of people. I love supporting teachers. I'm a PD person. I love to do professional development. I love to support. At the same time, I would say one of my strongest suits is being a communicator, getting information out so that people can figure out what to do, and supporting the teachers. So that's a little bit about me. I do have a master's in education in technology, and I do have a doctorate also in educational leadership. So I have pieces and parts. Does that answer? Okay.
When budgets are tight, there are no easy choices in making budget reductions. How would you approach making difficult choices such as staff reduction, facility closures, and elimination of education programs?
That's a tough one. I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that I've ever had to face that per se. It's been in the future for me at quite a few schools in California, also in North Dakota. And when I face that situation, I do a lot of talking with the team. I make sure that everybody knows what's coming and what is going to be coming down the pike so that people are fully aware. In one particular situation, I had, one of the staff members that said, you know what, I am not necessary. I'm really close to retirement. I would like to actually take that piece out of the puzzle. But because she had all of that information ahead of time, she was able to plan ahead. And it was already kind of a done, fixed problem for me. But in other situations where I faced that, I have gone back to the books, I've taken a look, and I've said, okay, where are our issues? do we have our priorities straight? Okay, there's the first thing. Then, are there other ways to fill this gap? How do we figure out, how do we solve this? And in many of the cases, for me, I've gone back and I've written grants, found money in various places to fill those holes. So how would I handle it if I wasn't able to get those grants? I've never had to not have those grants because I go not only to the state, but I also go to corporations at the right time, because I know that at a certain point in the year, they have to get rid of money. And if they have a school they can adopt, they like to give away their money to places that they can look good for. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. But when I deal with these kinds of things, I make sure we've advertised and had meetings about it so people know what's on the table, what my plan is to help solve the problem, get input on creative other things that might be priorities for the community. And then I bring all of that information, including grants that we have opportunities for, community support, other ways to fix the problem, bring it to the board. We talk about it as, what do you guys as representatives of the community want to do, what's the priority, and then we implement.
Tell us how you develop, use, and enforce school board policies.
Well, there are school board policies. I take them from the state. The state oftentimes already has drafts and whatnot. I then bring them to you. We go through, here are what the School Board Association is saying. These are the options that we have. This is what our school has done before. What do we want to do? These are issues that we're facing. How can we implement? We then have a set of policies by which we follow. I implement them. If I have an area that is gray that's happening in the school, then we figure out what's the solution and what's going to work. And we take a look at the policy. We bring it here to the table. We talk about it, what's going to work with the community and what's going to work with the school together, and make sure that we implement together.
Do you feel that articulating a district vision and mission and setting goals is important for a board? What do you see as your role in this process?
Absolutely, absolutely, and absolutely. So that was one of the things. I've had boards, not only in California, but I did a lot of board training when I was overseas because I had business people that were the board there. Oftentimes it was an embassy school, and so it was people who were used to businesses, but not the issues of the school. And I had to train them, and not that I've had to train all y'all, but I had to train them. Here are some of the ways to advertise the school, word of mouth, and how you can do that. And then also what the role of the board was, how do you guys share out the great things the school is doing and where the school is going. Had to do that with Drayton, actually, because Drayton was at the bottom 5%. I actually was hired. A week later, I got a call from DPI, which is OPI here, saying, oh, you are at the bottom 5% and you're at risk of being closed. That was the first week of my job there. I was like, well, okay, we have some work to do. So I actually brought in a board trainer that started working with the board in particular to help say what's working, what's not, and we went through that whole process. It was amazing. What is my role in the process? I am here to help facilitate what you guys hear from the community. I bring ideas to you because it's never fun to start a process if you don't have something to tear apart and rebuild. You're trying to just do it from scratch. It's rough. But I will bring samples, I will bring drafts, I'll bring ideas, and then help facilitate where we're going. I bring stakeholders, points of view. So if If I know we have a meeting, I will go to the staff, I will go to the community, I will get input, so that you have that information and you can work through it. So, yeah, absolutely.
Describe the kind of relationship you want to have with the board members of this district.
Here's the thing, in different communities, different situations, I've had different relationships. So with some of the schools that were embassy schools, we're talking with parents that were paying $50,000 a year to have their kids attend that school. And that board is a completely different business line item, if that makes sense. The relationship that I had with the board in Drayton was not only personal, but also I was part of the team, for lack of a better description. The guys would tell me, I'm stuck in the tractor. I'm not coming. Okay, fine, then I'm coming to you. And so they would tell me, they would send me a pin on my phone and tell me where I had to meet them. I would stand there and wait for the tractor to come around to me. I'd jump in the tractor and I'd go through all of the information that I needed to and go to the next field because that's where the next farmer was. I'm at a point in my career that I'm ready to find home. I'm ready to find where I want to be, to retire, to stay, to build a family with the community. So the kind of relationship I want to have is obviously very professional. I've been there. But at the same time, this is a small school and I want to be part of the community.
Who's mine? Nope, I got off track. Okay, let's say that you were attending a community meeting when a speaker makes a statement about the school district which is negative and not true. What would you do?
I would ask for substantiation. What makes you believe that this is true? What are you seeing? What's going on? Can I help clarify information? I'm pretty supportive, aggressive about the school, and I want to make sure that people have the truth. Because the school isn't going to be perfect, it never is, because we're all made up of people. But at the same time, I want to make sure that every word, every comment, that there is substantiation and there's something behind it, and that it's clear and corrected if it needs to be corrected. Because it happens.
Excuse me, what communication approach is most effective for you with teachers?
Whatever it is that works for teachers, they're the ones who are in the classroom with a schedule. And while my schedule is obviously tight, I can be a lot more flexible with trying to maintain that communication. I've been in schools where the teachers want paper. They want paper in the boxes. They want to know what's happening on paper. I've been in schools where they want it on a calendar. I've been in schools where they want an email every single morning. It just depends on the teachers. I'm capable of doing whatever it is that has happened, that has been effective, and maintain that so that we don't create more disruption. What's best for me? Building a relationship, understanding where they're coming from, and making sure that I get the information that they need to know to them in a timely manner so they can use it. So I don't have one particular method. I never have. It depends on those teachers. It depends on the community.
What have you found to be the best ways to communicate with your board?
Often, brief, and very clear, succinct. I know for many of my boards, they like a weekend, here's what's happened. in the school, what I've done, all of those kinds of things, so they have kind of a running what's going on. I've also had a Google Classroom, and the reason I do Google Classroom, and it sounds funny, but there's a closed section where I can upload all of the documents so that you guys can have them on your phones. You can get to them anytime you want. But more importantly, there's an instant, like you can send her an instant alert. So if something happens on campus and there's some event that I don't want you guys getting sideswiped with in the grocery store, I can send it out so that you have a first piece of knowledge, so that if somebody starts asking you questions, you at least have a fighting chance of being able to answer clearly and concisely without drama. So when I say clear, concise, and often, that's that, because I don't want the board to go, I don't know what's going on, but I'll look into it. I would rather have you be able to answer, hey, you know what, I do have information on that. I do have some clarity of what are you concerned about? And be able to respond effectively. It makes it really quickly.
What do you believe are the best ways for a district to monitor student achievement?
I always laugh when this question comes up, because the state likes to see numbers. We all know that. But the reality is, we are all far more than a sum of numbers. I want to see kids thriving. So when you walk into a classroom and you see kids being active, I like to see, I'm not going to say dirty classrooms because that's not what I mean, but evidence of active classrooms, teachers busy with kids, kids learning stuff. And the reason I say that is I'm going to tell you a little bit about me personally, and maybe it'll make sense to you. I am one personally that I can go into any test and I'll ace it. That doesn't mean I've learned anything. I just know how to jump the hoop. My older children were very similar. My littlest can't pass a test to save her life. At the same time, that little girl is getting straight A's. Why? Because she works her tail off and she demonstrates everything she knows. She has the opportunity to do that. She's already earned an engineering certificate at the school. She's a junior now. She's in the middle of her CNA program. When she's done this year, she'll have her CNA. And it's not about test taking. It's about evidence of her learning. And so for me, when we start talking about monitoring, I start saying, okay, we've got these test scores. That's great. What does that actually mean? Let's just look for areas that we can make improvements here. Okay, that's great. But what are the kids demonstrating in their knowledge? Let's go back to actually look at kids and teachers. And this child may technically on this test be still low, but let's look at the fact that this child has also gained 2 years of knowledge in reality, even though he's still a year behind. But that's because we had to fill some of these foundational pieces at the beginning. And he's still on track. He's just not at the same place that everybody else is. And the reason I talk about that is I do a lot with the concept of butterflies, and they come out of their cocoon when they're ready. But if we try to tear them out of that cocoon, the butterfly dies. And so we have to give kids every possible environmental, academic, you name it, opportunity to make the learning environment best for those kids, because they're going to blossom. But it may not be in our time, it's going to be in their time. And that's okay. So when we start talking about monitoring, I believe the test scores, they're going to show up, they happen. But when you start demonstrating and sending out to the community, look what our kids have done, look what they were able to do in the community, look at this event that they have put together, look at this, whatever it might be. They started this garden, they started this, they're running this program, I had a group of 9th grade boys that came to me, sat down at my desk, and said, we're dropping out. Really? Okay, let's talk about it. Why? And we started talking about it, and they saw school as being absolutely worthless. I'm just gonna go be on the farm anyway, so what's the point? Okay, well, what is it that you want from education? And I had some pretty profound conversations with them, and they had year after year after year been told they didn't know anything. I took them all out to the fields and I said, how long does it take for this tractor to go ahead and harvest this? Because we were tossing weeds at that point. And then they started describing to me what it was and the time with this and then the turnaround and da-da-da, and they started going through all of that. I said, do you realize, guys, that you just showed me algebra? And they just sat and stared at me. And I said, what if I were to write some of your classes for you? Will you stay in school? And I actually went back to math. I wrote a math class for them that applied a lot of what they had to learn. And they were higher level math, but they didn't realize what they were learning. Oftentimes, just the academics make kids feel like they can't do it because that's not the mind they have. We have to give them opportunities to demonstrate what they know. So, how do I monitor? There's a whole lot of ways that we monitor. But we make sure we don't lose kids through the cracks.
What is the most important job of the superintendent, and what is the best use of your time?
Communication, 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 getting communication from the state, getting communication from the community, getting communication from you guys, making sure the teachers have all the data they need to have, making sure everybody's got everything that they need. I'm kind of just the center of that, making sure that it all keeps flowing smoothly. I don't have all the answers, but with the team, we have them, and if I combine that team together to get the answers together, that's my best use of time. I solve problems, I make sure that I keep everybody in the know so that everybody knows where they can fit in and feel like they are an important part of making this happen for the community.
Tell us about an unpopular decision that you made and what did you learn from it?
So my dissertation, my doctorate, was on how do we train teachers to go beyond how they've been trained. So the teachers teach the way they were taught. We all do. Teachers teach the way they were taught. And yet we have a situation where we have teachers that are teaching the way they were taught, and they were taught through books and just books. How do we get teachers to use hands-on applications and things? Okay. So my dissertation was to write this tool that you can give to a staff, and with the 20 minutes you basically get back with where their strengths and where their struggles are, and so you really narrow your PD down and you focus on what the teachers need, not just what the state is saying or whatever. You're able to really hone in and build teachers up. One of the best facilitators of that training is a program that's called IB. It's International Baccalaureate. Because they're hands-on. They don't say what to teach. They just describe how to teach it. Okay. They do have classes. They have all this other stuff. As an international person, I was able to get IB willing to come into the school to do some training. theoretically, it would have been the first IB school in North Dakota. I was not registering the school to be an IB school. I was registering the school so that they would be able to get IB training. The teachers could go out and get this training. And it was a really big deal. I had all the grants for it. It was going to cost the school nothing. But some of the people got word that it's an international program and it's terrible. But that was from 1978. They found a news article from 1978. And they used that. So this little tiny group of people kind of rallied around it. And they used it as a tool to get angry at me and to say she's done something terrible. She's bringing in this terrible program. No, that's not. When I made that decision, it was very unpopular. Okay, not big time, but with this small group. What did I learn from this? I really need to advertise and explain things up front. And if there is question or doubt or concern, I need to make sure I cut that off at the front end of it. I've said before, I probably should have marched down to the bar, parked my tush in one of the seats in the bar, and explained it to everybody right then and there. And if it didn't work there, I should have gone down to the factory and done it there. But I didn't. I invited people in and said, if you want to hear about it, well, the people who wanted to hear about it were the people who were already interested, not the people who were angry. And I should have gone to them. And I blew it because it started issues in the community, and then there was another factor that happened that was an unlawful situation that I had to deal with, and they kind of rallied around that too because they were long-time community people, but they didn't really know what was actually going on. So it was kind of rough, but they used those pieces to try to divide the community, and I chose to not divide the community. I chose to give them all the tools and everything that they needed to support, because I would have killed to have stayed there. I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to leave because I fell in love with the people. And honestly, I want to do that again. I want to fall in love with the community again. But at least I know now that if there is a contingent that doesn't like what I'm doing, I got to go after it right away. I can't ask them to come to me. I got to go to them.
Explain your plan to foster and develop a positive working atmosphere.
I've never really had an issue with this, mainly because I'm the first one that when the teacher's like, help, I will help. I don't have a problem when I walked into any of the schools. I'm always, what needs to be done? Let's get it done. What can I do? There was a whole set, I mean, this library is gorgeous, but there was a library that was just nasty, and I was like, okay, this is not going to work. I took all the shelves home, I sanded them all down, I painted them all, I got them back in, and we built a whole children's library because it needed to happen. But my faculty knows always that my door is open if they need me. The community knows my door is open if they need me. They know that I'm a person of action, that I'm not somebody that's going to say, well, let me see if I can, talk to some other people. If it's something that I can do, or if I know how we solve it, we get on it. At the same time, I make sure something never happens, and that is triangles. If people come to me and say, oh, it's blah, 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 blah. Wait. Have you spoken to that teacher? Have you spoken to that person directly? Have you shared your concerns so that they know and they can talk to you about it positively? And if they haven't, can I help facilitate that conversation? Because we're not going to create he said, she said anywhere in this. So I make sure people know that what I say is what I mean. And when we talk about people, we talk about them with respect and honor and dignity. And we make sure that we speak to people clearly, because anything we do, I don't care if we do it behind closed doors or whatever, kids see it. And we are modeling for them. And it doesn't matter day in or day out, kids need to see adults have problems, solve problems, move on from problems. Because if they don't see that, how are they ever going to learn? So, how do I develop a positive working atmosphere? I model what I say and what I expect.
What do you consider as your most significant accomplishment or accomplishments as an educator, administrator that may or may not be spelled out in your resume?
I have kids that call me and say, thanks for giving me the opportunity. So, I have a lot of fun. I have kids find me through Facebook. I have kids find me. I have parents that call and say, thanks for believing in the kid. And it's been when I've been administrating, it's been when I was a teacher, doesn't really matter. But my resume talks about stuff, and picture stuff. And yeah, I've got all of that. But for me, what's not spelled out is the one-on-one relationships. It's about believing in kids and giving them opportunities, because sometimes families just are stuck, and somebody's got to believe in them that they're going to be able to get through this and it's going to be okay and there's a bright future.
Give us some idea of how you judge your own effectiveness as a superintendent. How would you expect the board to evaluate your work?
I am one of those people that every single time I go through something, I question, how could I have done that better? And that comes from when I was a kid. I went to Forest Home and I got a lecture when I was at camp that said, how are you going to leave this? Are you going to leave this worse than you found it, the same as you found it, or better than you found it? And I always go, I'm leaving it C. I'm leaving it C. I'm leaving whatever I go after, whatever I do, whatever I'm involved in. I'm leaving it C. I'm leaving it better than I found it. So how do I judge my own effectiveness? If I see, and I mentioned this earlier tonight, if I see happy teachers and I see kids who they're never going to show it, but you can see it in their eyes because they want to be on campus and they're excited to come back. I know that those teachers are making those kids excited to learn. However that is, that's effective, and I know it's working. How would I want you to evaluate my work? As a board, you have goals. As a board, you set goals for me, and you hold me accountable. And I know what we are striving for first, second, third, and we keep raising the bar. We make sure that we are constantly, what's the next step that needs to happen? The thing is we have to remember kids are developmental, and so it's not about raising a whole bunch of academic numbers, because honestly, the school has them. But it's about making sure that we give kids all the opportunities that they need to thrive when they hit the goals. And so what do we need to do? Are we keeping up with what the state says we need to? Are we making sure that we take that information and apply it to our situation to make sure our kids get what we need next? Because frankly, there's going to be a lot of changes coming down in the next couple of years with education. And we're going to have to figure out how to navigate schools were here to teach kids. And sometimes people think that there should be a whole lot more added to that. But we're a resource and we're here to teach kids. So how do I want you to judge me? Have goals, evaluate whether I'm meeting those goals or not. And if I'm not, then we need to figure out why and we solve it. But if I am, we call it accomplished and we move on to the next one.
In what areas do you feel you need additional training or experience?
I have a true philosophy that the day I stop learning is the day that I need to be out of education. Every day is an opportunity for me. What do I need additional training? Well, in practical terms, I have a North Dakota administrator's credential along with a whole bunch of classes that I supposedly can teach. But in Montana, I'm gonna have to take 3 classes to get the credential cleared. They'll give me the provisional, but then I have to get those other classes done. So I will need to get those done right away, but I'm one that likes to just get it done and be done with it. And then for me, additional training or experience, I don't know that I can honestly answer it beyond those classes right now, because I would want to know what's happening here, and then I can figure out what else I need training in to support. So it really is reflective of the school and what the school needs, and then what I need to learn to fill in those gaps.
All right, are there other things that you would like us to know about you that we have not covered in this?
No, probably not. The reality is, I've done budgets, I've done all of those things. I'm here. I want to be, invested in the community. And so if I'm a good fit, then I'm ready to jump in. But obviously you guys know what's best for the community. And so I'm going to support and encourage and be excited for whatever you guys decide. But it is an honor to be here. It's an honor to get to know you guys. So. It was a beautiful drive. Pretty spectacular drive.
You come all the way from North Dakota?
Oh yeah.
Today?
Oh.
Okay. I was ready to say.
But tomorrow I go back.
Okay. I feel a little better now.
Yeah, no, tomorrow morning, I'll get up in the morning. I actually have to go up to Lethbridge real quickly, and then I'll drive back to Grand Forks.
Well, that's all the questions that we have for you.
Okay,
You have any for us?
I think we're good. I have a lot of questions for you, but that's only if you guys decide that I'm a good fit, and then we go.
Well, it was very nice to meet you. Thank you for making the drive.
Thank you.
Please be safe driving back.
Oh, I will.
Please grab 18 cookies on your way.
And a couple muffins.
I have a whole full of snacks.
I was gonna grab the muffins.
Yeah, you can grab those.
I know, right?
I'm going to grab some.
Thank you.
Yeah, go for it. Yep.
I see the yawn. It's okay. Only one more to go and it's a deliberation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I know. Yeah.
And
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Safe travels.
Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, we got.
Nice to meet you. Okay, I think I better turn my phone back on.
All right, but I'll be driving.
Yes.
Well, I'll be driving to.
I know, I'm gonna walk and stretch for a minute.
Yes, and I will try to leave my phone on. If for some reason I don't, it's because I'm sleeping.
You should by today. 14 and 12.
That's awesome. I remember Rogan. There was a period there where it was so easy to use Rogan.
Yes. 12.
And then the back of their head.
Yeah, exactly. I meant to get rid of for. Yeah.
It was, let me tell you, I had a lot of help. Yeah. That way you don't have to. Keep my next around. I'm exhausted.
Keep you on, I might fall asleep.
I just feel like. I just can't take the stress.
CD crackers? Oh, I don't want to eat anything right now.
I know, it's probably.
Yeah, me too. Sure.
Thank you.
I did get my house cleaned up though, so that makes me feel better. There's glitter everywhere, but it's fine. That part's not cleaned up. That's not going anywhere for a while. But I got all the scraps and everything.
Where's everybody?
And it just dawned on me. I got the coach ones done, but I was wondering if I had an extra basketball.
Remembered bus driver and forgot.
I understand that.
A lot of people are going to the game.
And then the teacher, like, when they realized, you're like how the teachers all got time.
Earlier.
Yeah, I feel like
Except
maybe
for this one.
It's only 15 minutes, but.
So this one's a mystery.
That's sometimes better, that Q and A, beats an interview.
I me too. It's gonna be a long weekend.
Yeah. You feel like you get to let that be.
I haven't read their text me and said, can you grab it? So,
Okay.
I think it has
A
coffee
little
in
more
it.
laid back.
To drink it.
You
And you
drink
put
that
on
and I will.
Drink it. I think you really get to know someone and feel if they're actually a good fit for, you know?
Did you get any feedback from the teachers? I know in the past, there's been more feedback from the teachers.
Yeah, like, as in afterwards, or how do you mean?
You wanna sign in?
Oh, oh, yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. Not yet, but, you know, after, it's a little different, because a lot of them show up for a session like they did today. It was after the interview, and then she went out, and Annette Gardner took them for a meeting. See, it was on Saturday. Every time I've ever done it was on Saturday. No teachers were here. They took them and walked them around, and then some of the teachers were with them.
I won't sit on it.
And, so then they kind of had a clue. And so they kind of gave some feedback when we got back, and when we pulled everybody back in here after we got, yeah, and we got the bad news, you know, about their past. Probably kept doing just that. Then the teachers came back in, and, I think Brenda asked what you guys thought. There were quite a few teachers here that last one, and so they said, well, I like this. Yeah. So, yeah, we did.
I know.
Get more
Those five, have
feedback.
you had an office?
No.
Now, because
Have you had
they
Ashley's
didn't
office
stay.
before? That's who made them.
That's my first time.
Yeah, unless they
Oh
told
my
you.
gosh, they
She makes
are,
these ones?
yeah,
Those ones too?
Not,
yeah.
not for the bad,
Her sourdough bread is to die
you know,
for.
but other than that, when
She got like a
everybody's here, you
jalapeno
got
cheddar
to
with sourdough oats.
Is she a bakery?
well, the
Yeah.
teachers
No, she just does
thought
that.
they really
She
liked
does it at
this
her
about
house,
this one.
and then
didn't
she does the
like,
drop
you know,
off.
whatever.
Yeah.
Always skeptical.
Yeah, no. So,
Yes. I didn't know who that was.
Yeah, it's actually Mannix. It's
ask
negative
me.
aspects.
Oh.
positive
They have
aspects.
good conversations.
Chocolate chip cookies are-
Like when she makes the giant chocolate chip cookies.
Everybody's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really good.
This is a healthy dinner.
It is.
That's what I was saying, it's my dinner.
She's a
I
crack
know,
my
I
screw.
thought, I thought about like bringing food, but I was like, I don't know how many people are gonna be
Yeah.
here and I wanna walk away with.
But this is fine. You don't have any-
Perfect.
I'm gonna tell my fellow that I had muffins for.
Tell her that, she'll use it against you.
Haley's planning on DoorDash to Taco Bell tonight.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Haley? Yeah, Haley.
The joys of being in town where you can DoorDash
Yeah.
food.
I'm like, you need to eat because you guys aren't going anywhere tonight. She's like, no, it's fine, I'm gonna DoorDash Taco Bell.
No, he's looking forward to doing that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Heard. It's too close right now.
Behind the Mackenzie River. You go up on Reserve, you go right.
You wanna try
Instead of
to
going left, you can. Yep.
If you try Costco or.
I heard.
Starbucks. Gotcha.
There you go.
We were just at Cracker
I
Barrel.
didn't know.
And Starbucks.
True story.
Are you
No,
grabbing me for water?
yes.
Yeah.
Donna had me lined out on that already.
I hadn't heard that one.
What time are you gonna be here? Because I figured I'd leave about 3. I think Bill's coming to work. So it'll be,
Yes.
it
I'm
won't be
excited.
a
So
boring
you're
trip.
going over in the morning. Are you guys staying?
Yeah, we're seeing.
I stayed with Julie.
Oh, where are they staying?
I have some more Airbnb or something.
I don't remember anything.
Where are you staying?
Yes, yep.
Where are you guys staying?
We are, where the kids are staying right off of Reserve, you go up the hill at an
Okay.
Airbnb. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have our family and then Chad's family and then, my business partner and his wife and
Yeah.
so.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh,
because the past.
Well, I wasn't planning on it because
Used
it's
to
going
be.
to go.
I'm not saying tomorrow, but I'll stay Friday.
Oh, wow.
That's good.
I have dogs to deal with, I can't stay.
I know, always.
So do I, but I was thinking about
Dogs
Saturday.
and horses,
Mhm.
I know, exactly.
no kid here to feed them.
Right, it's all on you.
It's a little bit easier when you only have one game, but for us having two, I'm like, then we're stuck here all day sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And that they ended up with like
Yeah.
drinks and before and everything, so.
You're driving back and forth.
And then I couldn't sleep.
I thought about it, I want to be there
Yeah.
and just experience it.
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
thank goodness, yes, no stress.
And then
Yes.
Dylan's birthday.
They did the swap. And
Oh, it is.
I wanna-
You want a good birthday present for me? District champ.
I know.
Yeah.
They better win something.
Just
Right.
right.
Affordable for
He came home last night, he goes, Mom, how late are you staying at Vegas? I go until I get it done, and, I mean, I'm really sick. He was like, and I was like, I got enough for me. I'm like, all right. She was so pretty, he was just worried about stressing me out. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I noticed.
Vitamins.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do we wanna hook your computer? Do you have an HDMI?
For whatever reason, I don't know. He has what he was sick.
they don't share
Beginning of
anything.
last week. And then I heard that started going around, so then I still had.
Hopefully they're
I
all
got him
better.
tested. So
Okay.
Wednesday.
The weekend.
But that's, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
You never know.
I know, it's so hard.
But they.
If you just get through this weekend, then
I know.
fine.
I know.
And then get it on Monday or Tuesday and then.
Yeah.
I
know.
Everyone
Right.
wants to scrap it. Well, I said something to Rose, I was like, don't let anybody drink out of the beer. It's so gross, why would they even do that? I'm like, I don't know, sometimes, you know,
It happens.
boys think it's funny or somebody grabs something, you know, he's just like, no.
I'm losing my chocolate.
See what it's going to be, right? Yep, and I'd rather sit down, get it out of the way.
I know. And have the easy first kiss.
Yep. What did I say?
St. Regis.
Yeah, St. Regis.
The girls are?
Yeah. Girls are St. Regis,
And then
boys are Boston.
And the girls are clips, right?
Yep.
Yes. Totally. I know, I'm so excited. For all of them. I feel like the girls have improved so much.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I
much.
suppose.
I mean, it's really exciting to see. I don't know.
But there is.
All their plays or whatever they do.
Yeah.
I know when they're packed, they're like lined up and then, you know,
Yeah.
then they make it in and.
Yeah, exciting. Yeah.
When they answer, I was like, yeah. They make it really good.
So.
You never know what happens, you know, underneath the church.
Okay, we got it.
You've been mean before.
Can you still hear us?
Yes. You're gonna wanna mute.
I know.
That's okay. So I guess you have to mute.
Yeah, someone has to be.
You're probably gonna wanna mute yours.
Yeah. Okay, I'm muted and my video is off. Okay, so when people start talking, you're seeing me because I'm the one talking.
Right.
As soon as I shut up, you just. Is that better?
Oh, it's okay. There we are. There we
There
are.
we go. Elizabeth?
Thank you.
Yep, do you have an interview question? Yep. All right, hi Megan. While she's grabbing us for the interview questions, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Brenna Clark, I am the board chair, born and raised in Lincoln, Montana. Julie's.
Oh, sorry. I was just waiting for her to reply. Julie Zarsky. I too practically born here and raised here. My kids grew up here, one graduated from here, and the other still in school.
Hello, I'm Scott Fry, and I'm not from here, but I have two sons that graduated from me.
I'm Doug Mengel, I'm not from here, my wife and I have one son currently in school.
I'm Billy Sear, and I got two boys in school. And I grew up here.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. We'll get started. So we know a little bit about you from your application, but the members of our audience may not. Can you tell us about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Megan Burrell. So hello to everybody there in the back that I see, and everybody up front. I am currently superintendent in Ritchie, Montana. Before that, and I've been here for this is my third year here. Before that, I was the principal in Circle for 2.5 years. Due to some administrative differences, I made a transition to Terry for a semester. I could have stayed in Terry, but I had the opportunity to come here to Ritchie, and so I made that move. Before that, I was a classroom teacher for 12 years, I believe. And I did all of my teaching years in Indianapolis. I was born and raised just outside of Indianapolis. So obviously, Eastern Montana is very different than where I did all my teaching years. I taught in an inner city school there, mostly 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. But yeah, after all of that, I'm here in Ritchie, and so, yeah.
When budgets are tight, there are no easy choices in making budget reductions. How would you approach making difficult choices such as staff reductions facility closures, and elimination of education programs.
So I think that's never easy. I think what we have to look at first is the goals of the district. So what are the primary goals of the district, and what staffing do we need, or what building facilities, or what are our primary needs to meet those main goals of the district? And once you have determined that, then that's your basis for the decisions that you're making. And so you don't want to ever have to eliminate anything. It's those things on the outside that may not be part of your core goals as the district that are probably going to be where you're going to need to look at first. And then kind of go from there. But hopefully that answers your question there. Sorry, this is going to be, I hate Zoom, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there, so.
Tell us how you develop, use, and enforce school board policies.
So I think that's a joint venture between the board and myself, but first off, I'm gonna take what you already have in place. And that's what I'm going to base everything off of. The handbooks that you have in place, the policies that you have in place, that's what we're gonna base the beginnings of everything on. And then I think, again, you have to go back to the goals of the district and what do board policies need to change to match the goals of the district? Or are there different concerns that we're not meeting, whether it's, I'm just gonna throw out an example, maybe we're frustrated with cell phones, which obviously is the big to-do all over the place right now. And does your board goal or does your board policy on cell phones and electronic devices match what you as a board and as the school wants to see? And if that's not the case, then we need to make a change so that those two things match, but that's just an example. And then once we have those goals and board policies in place, then that's what we'll use to go forward.
Do you feel that articulating a district vision and mission and setting goals is important for a board? And what do you see as your role in this process?
I think we're a team approach there. I think that's, between what I as the superintendent see our needs for the district, but then what you as the board envision, and what you as the board want to see for the district. Repeat your question again, because I had another thought, but now I've lost it, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Do you feel that articulating a district vision and mission and setting goals is important for a board? What do you see as your role in this process?
Okay, so I answer the second part, but the first part, yes, I do think it's important, because I think then that gives me and then the staff ultimately, some direction of what you as the board want to see for the district. So I think without those goals, it can be a hodgepodge of things. You might think, oh, we want to go this direction, but then we have something else that we might need to see. So, and I think those goals come from a multitude of different areas. Maybe it comes from the test scores that we see, but it also just comes from what does Lincoln as a community, what are your goals for your students when they leave your district and move on and graduate, and so all of that has to be put together to form those goals, and then that's our basis for what we're going to do. The graduate profile that was just completed is part of that. That'll determine some of your academic goals, because that needs to be part, that should be a living document within the classroom, whatever your graduate profile says. That's just another example of a goal, but all of those things should be part of maybe not every day, but it should be definitely something that is at the forefront of staff's minds when educating your students and those things that we put emphasis on in the classroom, if that makes sense.
Describe the kind of relationships you want to have with the board members of this district.
My goal would be that the board and I are a team. Ultimately, the board is my boss, and I'm going to take my lead from you. But I think Ultimately, I want it to be a team approach. I want, there to be, some trust there that what I'm seeing as a superintendent is, and if I'm bringing that to you as something that I need to see a change, or we need to do a goal or whatever, that you take, my opinions and trust that, but I also am gonna take what you guys see as those things that are important, and we're gonna work together. I never want anything to be a surprise on either side. So if there's something that I know that could be tricky coming up, hopefully you're gonna know that, or vice versa. If there's something that you guys are unhappy with, or you have a concern about, or whatever, I would, assume and appreciate that that would be communicated to me, so that I have the opportunity to, address whatever that concern might be. So I really see it more as a team approach, even, but ultimately you guys are the bosses and you're leading the district. And that's, you give me the charge to set forth whatever you, see as important.
Let's say you're attending a community meeting when a speaker makes a statement about the school district which is negative and not true. What would you do?
Read that for me one more time. I'm sorry, it was hard to hear you.
I'm sorry. Let's say, let me see, I'll speak loud. Normally I'm very loud. Let's say that you're attending a community meeting when a speaker makes a statement about the school district which is negative and not true. What would you do?
I think it kind of depends on the situation and the statement that was made. It's hard to say exactly what I do, because that's a very broad, it's a very broad problem, and it could be, it depends on the community meeting. Are we all having a discussion, and maybe, and so that's something that I could address right then in a way that's going to be, that's not gonna cause conflict, or if it is, it's gonna be a conflict that's a discussion that is appropriate. Because you have to think about that too. If I am going to say, no, I don't agree with that, is it going to be a conversation that's, am I gonna be able to do it in a way that's going to be a good conversation? Because everybody's not going to always agree. That's just not reality. But can we have good conversation about whatever they feel is negative? If I feel that I can't, and I think that's an in the moment thing for me, because I also see maybe it's really not the time, or maybe it's a very public meeting, and so that conversation can't happen right then. You have to base the situation, and maybe I can't address it right then, but that might be a phone call I make later and say, hey, you had this statement, let's talk about it. Let's dive into what your concern really is. Is it something we can fix? Maybe it's something we can't fix. That's reality too. Again, not everybody is going to agree with every decision that the board makes, that I make, that anybody makes, but can we solve it, or can we come to an agreement, or this is not something that we can ever agree on? How can we move forward knowing that? So I think it really depends on the situation, and it's hard to say exactly how I would respond, because a community meeting could be a variety of different sizes. It could be a variety of different, like I said, situations. Maybe it's up for discussion right then, but maybe that's really not the appropriate time for that, and it needs to be addressed later. I hope that answers that question well.
Yes,
for you.
Thank you.
What communication approach is most effective for you with teachers?
I think two different things. I very much feel like face-to-face conversations are really important. I am one that likes to go, I do my due diligence every morning to make it to see every teacher. Can't always happen, just because that's not reality, but I try really hard to go and visit every teacher every morning, even if it's just a greeting, to say, morning, how's it going? Is there anything you need from me? And you can really address a lot of quick things just by doing that. And then if there was okay, so let's say there's an issue, that's gonna be a verbal conversation that we're gonna talk about. And maybe that's me going to their room and just having a quick conversation. Maybe that's them coming to my office. It kind of depends on the severity of it, kind of depends on the situation. But, you know, if there's issues, I really like to talk about that. If, I'm also a big communicator of just sharing information. So, like, for example, I do what's called a week at a glance email every Thursday, before the end of the day. All my staff gets a week at a glance email from me. Talks about what's coming up next week, what's coming, you know, where am I gonna be? Maybe I'm out on Tuesday, and so I let my staff know that, or, just trying to, you know, hey, reminder, we're gonna assembly on Wednesday at 1, and those different things. So email is really important too, but just to disseminate practical information or reminders or those sorts of things. But I'm not a big fan of emails in, you know, if it's something that needs to be discussed in person. I try not to have, I'm not a huge fan of having lots and lots of meetings just to have meetings. I like to have about a once a month staff meeting where we talk about what's coming up for the next month, or maybe there's an issue here or there that we need to deal with. But every now and then, we don't need to meet, and I don't wanna meet just to meet either. So, that, those are my two main ways of communication. And it kind of depends on the situation.
What have you found to be the best ways to communicate with your board?
I think a quick phone call is probably the easiest way. Sometimes an email, but I don't like emails as much. Again, I'd rather just pick up the phone, or, hey, you might stop by my office and we have a quick conversation about something. Those are my two preferred methods.
What do you believe are the best ways for a district to monitor student achievement?
I think there's, bless you. I'm not a huge fan, I'll just be frank about, state assessments, or at least not in the past. I think, like Smarter Balance that we've used previously to this year, that is a one snapshot in time of how a student is doing. Maybe they had a rough morning, maybe there's something, you know, who knows what could have happened, and so that score may not be indicative of their true ability. So I'm not a huge fan of that. As we've started to work through math a little bit this year, I'm a little bit more okay with that because I feel like it's showing a little bit better growth of students. Obviously, it's the first year, there's still things to work out, I'm not exactly sure. But I think it gives a better gauge of student achievement than Smarter Balance did. But I think there also needs to be some interim assessments in there, whether your district uses MAPS or uses FastSprints or uses Renaissance Star Reading or N-Star Math, whatever those interim assessments are, I think those are a good gauge of student achievement, and they give you lots of good data as far as what, how students are really performing and what needs there are for intervention or classroom instruction differences or whatever. And even just pure classroom assessments are super important too, but if we're talking about kind of those formal assessments, I really like those interim assessments better than anything else.
What is the most important job of a superintendent, and what is the best use of your time?
So, you know, it kind of depends on the size of the school. You know, small school, Lincoln is. I think the best use of my time, especially during the school day, is being available to teachers, available to students. The learning and students and staff are the most important part of my job as the superintendent. There are all sorts of other reports and all those things that come as part of the job too, but student learning and how I can support staff and students is the most important part of my job.
Tell us about an unpopular decision that you made and what did you learn from it?
Oh, a hard one. I think sometimes I would say the discipline matters at different times. I'm a big proponent of having a very laid out discipline policy. I think that makes things more fair for everybody, because it lays out very specifically, okay, if this happens, then this is the consequence, and then, you know, this is what kind of goes down the line, and I think that helps make it much more equitable, but in all honesty, not every teacher is always going to agree with the decision I ultimately make about a discipline matter for a student. But they may also not know all of the details that I know. And so there have been times where I've had to make a discipline decision that it was not necessarily what the teacher wanted to see. I've also had to deal with some really significant discipline matters in the past. And there were some people who had some very strong feelings. At the end of the day, we have to follow the discipline policy, you've got to follow law, and you've got to follow board policy. And though those decisions may not be always what a staff member wants, if I followed those things, then that's the best decision that needs to be made.
Explain your plan to foster and develop a positive working atmosphere.
I think that just comes from relationship building. Like I said, it's huge for me just to go visit every classroom every morning. And it may be a very quick stop in, but I try very hard to be very present and available to staff. I have if my door's closed, it's for a serious reason. My door is rarely closed unless, like I said, I'm on a phone call that has to be confidential or whatever. 95% of my day, my door is open. I'm available to staff. I'm available to students. And just being out and about and around, even standing in the hallway during passing period, all of those little things helps foster a really good working environment with my teachers. They trust me to know that they can pop in at any time. We can talk about anything. And then, like I said, me just being out and there and visiting classrooms, I found that to be very successful in creating a really positive environment in my students.
What do you consider as your most significant accomplishment or accomplishments as an educator, administrator that may or may not be spelled out in your resume?
I think my greatest accomplishment is helping students who may struggle find success. I think of, I have certain students in mind right now that, they come in and school's not their favorite thing, or they struggle, or for whatever reason, they are not being successful, and being able to work together with them as a student, their parents, teachers, to make them more successful, I think and that's not something you can always put on paper. But I think, like I said, I have a few students in my head right now that really were struggling, and to see their success now with the work that we've been able to do with them and their parents and the staff is really, because ultimately my goal is that every student is learning, not to their greatest potential. And that's not going to be the same for every kiddo, but that I think is my biggest, and you can't put that on paper, but I see it in the kids that, like I said, in my mind right now, that make me super happy.
Give us some idea of how you judge your own effectiveness as a superintendent. How would you expect the board to evaluate your work?
I think just so two-part question there. So I think it's always helpful for you to have some sort of rubric that you evaluate me by, because that's helpful for me, it's helpful for you, because we both are looking at the same evaluation tool. And I think I am very big on transparency. I don't like to be surprised by things if at all possible. and I don't like to surprise others by things. So when it comes to evaluations, especially like when it comes to evaluations of my staff, I should never go into an evaluation meeting of a staff member and blindside them with something like they're doing terribly wrong, or that I wanna see, and then have they do their evaluation, and it's not ever something that we've had a conversation about. If I'm doing my job the right way, they will have heard about that well before their evaluation. And maybe they made a change, maybe they didn't, and that might be reflected in their evaluation, but an evaluation to me should never be a surprise. It should be a culmination of what has happened up to this point and how the performance up to that point. And if I'm doing my job the right way, staff knows that. And I would hope the same from the board to me. If there's something that I'm doing that you don't agree with, or that you wanna see done differently, I would hope that we've had that honest conversation long before we get to a point of an evaluation. I don't know if I answered your whole question. Do you wanna repeat it, and I'll make sure I did, I'm sorry.
No problem. Give us some idea of how you judge your own effectiveness as a superintendent. How would you expect the board to evaluate your work?
Okay, and so I think I've answered it for the most part, but I think judging effectiveness, I think also looking at the goals of the district. Are we meeting, and are we meeting those goals? Or are there areas that I need to improve on because we're not meeting a goal there? And that comes from your job as board, what you've said to me, but then also, your strategic plan and what the goals are that you want to move forward with for the next few years. Are we moving forward with those goals? And if not, then I'm not being very effective if we're not working and making progress on that strategic plan or those goals. I think I answered the rest of it.
In what areas do you feel you need additional training or experience?
I've only been a superintendent for 3 years now, and so I think just time. I mean, just like being a teacher, you learn as you go, and you learn with new situations. And I don't know that there's necessarily a training that I feel that I would need. I think it's just, like I said, even as a teacher, the more you teach, the more you grow, the more you learn. And I feel like that's the same way in this job. And the people that I surround myself with help me grow. I do think it's important to attend those. I'm a big fan of attending professional development opportunities for administrators. The summer admin workshop that is put on every summer by school administrators in Montana, and some of those things, because that gives me new ideas. It gives me, usually gives me up-to-date things. Oh, this is coming down. We need to think about making changes there. Those are the areas that I feel like help me the most. But as far as something specific, the only thing I really feel that is an area that I need to grow in that I know for sure, is the budget side of things. There is so much to school finance, so much. I work with a fantastic clerk right now. She's been doing this for 30 years, and I still every week learn something from her about school finance and budgeting, because it is such a huge multifaceted part of running a school. And I don't know that I'll probably ever know as much as I would like to know about budgeting with school budgets and finance, but that's certainly an area that I continue to work on, to learn more about and grow.
All right. Are there any other things that you'd like us to know about you that we have not already covered in this interview?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you guys have asked a lot of questions that really would have pulled out some of the things that I would have wanted you to know, so I don't think so.
Do you have any questions for us?
I wasn't able to join you obviously in person, so I don't know, like, are there building concerns or, things like that that you're looking at needing addressed in the near future? Is that something there's concern about, or are we pretty stable there? Like I said, since I wasn't able to take the tour or anything.
Oh, like the school building concerns?
Correct.
No, yeah, just the budget is the biggest issue.
Okay. How do you as a board, like I mentioned, the Summer Institute for administrators, are you as a board, encouraging of those opportunities for your superintendent? Obviously, budget is something to be in consideration of, but is that something that you are, in favor of?
I mean, absolutely, as long as as long as the funds are available. But there's also grants for items like that. I know that we
Yeah.
have found in the past as well.
Sure. Sure.
Do you have any additions to add to that?
Oh, of course, training is important.
Did you hear her?
I think so, but repeat it for me one more time.
I just said, I definitely believe, I'm the clerk, or I'm training the new clerk, but anyway, training is important, so I usually find ways.
Yeah. I don't think I have really any other, the one other question I had that I wrote down, I was looking at my notes over here. How are we looking staffing wise? Do we have a lot of hiring concerns for next year? Do we know yet? I mean, there's always a surprise, and you just plan for that, but how are we looking staffing wise?
Kathy?
Staffing wise, we're waiting for budgets. Of course, we have concerns there. We have about 70% of our staff that have tenure and have been here for more than 10 years. So we have a staff that's very stable. We have 4 first-year teachers. So it's across the board there. And we just need to look at things. We're looking at the STARS Act right now. Yeah, and trying to figure out
Us
that.
too.
Yeah. So that's where we are right now. We're just waiting for numbers and trying to figure out what's the best way to move forward.
Okay, are you in a negotiation year or are you in an off year? So with the STARS Act, is it something that you're looking at really trying to put into negotiations, or is this more of an MOU year and that like next year would be a negotiation year?
This year would be a negotiation year.
Okay.
So we're looking at that as part of it. Yeah, so that's about where we are at.
Okay. Okay. No, I don't think I have any other questions for all of you.
Well, it was great to meet you.
Yes, you too. I'm so sorry I couldn't make it over there. But
No worries, the
I'm so
roads are not great.
thankful. Thanks for letting me do some Zoom and.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, have a great rest of your night.
Okay, you guys as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Safe travels.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Glad you pointed that out.
Move back.
Hey, Scott, you're staying over there.
Don't get
Then we will come
You're
back
not.
into order.
Yes. Right.
Scott, I ain't gonna tell you the truth.
Good.
So she can do minutes for us. Yeah.
For the closed session, for the
closed session. The closed, and I want to tell you too, is it's up to you guys, but normally, usually, we don't make them stick, because like, I made the minutes for closed session anyways. So I can just, coming out, it's, all the minutes are, there's no motion or something, but there's not usually any more chat, so it's completely up to you guys. If you want to stay,
So there won't, after the closed session, there's no.
We would make a decision.
there's a
Yeah.
decision tonight, yeah. What
Yep.
I'm saying is.
But she would
I
take
can
the
take the
minutes.
minutes since I know you're doing the closed session ones anyways. It's just an option, you don't have to do it.
It's whether you guys.
Yeah, this is up to you guys, if you guys.
Do you wanna be here to hear our decision? And the reasoning behind our decision?
I'm watching Katie Travis's house and another house.
Okay, fine.
Well,
call
I mean, I do want to be here, but I don't know how long.
Your input is valuable.
Okay, I think what I'm gonna do is run home and take care of my dogs and stuff. and then
Perfect.
come back.
Okay. Now is the time for public comment, so that if anyone wants to make public comments, it's like, I need you here for this part.
Oh, well, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So the
Yes.
public comment part, and just the parameters for public comment are, if you've got something to say about someone, this is the time the board wants to hear, but it's easier for everyone if you just look at, if you want to say you support someone, that's great. I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time trashing the people you don't like. That's the kindest way to say it, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Public comment is welcome.
I mean, you guys have you have a hard decision to make. I hope that you can see from the candidates, somebody that you think will, be the best for supporting the teachers and, hopefully also, boosting morale overall. I know it's something we've been working on, the school has been working on, but I feel like it still has a long way to go. So somebody you think would maybe be willing to take that on. I know it's hard, it's not something that was necessarily addressed in the questions, but I hope you can like look at what was said in the candidates and really try to see beyond all that and who you think could be the best fit for the school in that way.
Public comments, your time.
So I think that all of the candidates had great qualities that I could pick out that were awesome. I can't say one or the other is better than another, but I like that, that one of them might have had some Montana experience, that we're dealing with our budget, in particular Montana itself is having, some legislative decisions that could affect us. That maybe they would understand better, and testing as well because of my world, but for sure, all of them are great. So I can see positives in every candidate.
I don't really have any comments except, in the event that, you don't love somebody, like what are the options going forward from that? If you can't agree or you don't choose one candidate, or like what does the process look like from there?
So the board has the option, if they didn't like any of the folks tonight, of reopening the position and advertising and seeing who else comes through the door.
How long was it listed this time?
Listed for 5 weeks.
I just hate Zoom interviews because I just don't feel like it's hard to get to the feel. I just feel like we miss out on something. So that's a little disappointing and for me personally, but I understand we can't be everywhere at once, right? So I get that, but a tough decision. I wish I could have made the meet and greet, and I wish there's a little more staff, but I think if they did a Q&A beforehand, I'm sure they have their feel, and hopefully they've kind of let you know where they stand too. I think that's a huge thing, is just finding the one that fits, right? Like, you can have all the criteria you want, but at the end of the day, you need to find somebody who is going to be able to juggle everybody's dynamic and fit here. You guys got this.
Stevie?
Did you guys get any feedback from any of the other teachers after the meet and greet? Or kind of what they may have thought? You
I'll
did?
share with you guys a closed session.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. That's helpful.
I don't have any comments.
I was impressed with all of them, and I think it would be important to act quickly. But yeah, I got a good candidate group here.
And you're saying to act quickly because of the quality of the candidates,
We
right?
don't want to lose
Yeah.
somebody.
And the
That's
positions
all
that are
I'm
open.
saying, because we
correct.
know that happens.
Yeah.
We know how many open positions. So,
Did we, in the listing, sorry, I'm unknowledgeable or not savvy to it, but did we list a wage, salary, price? What does that look like?
They did a range.
Yeah,
A range.
yeah.
90 to 105,000.
Are we able to know if the candidates have applied to other, or, you know, if they're interviewing at other places? Yes, and yes, they all are.
Ooh,
So we need to call them tonight.
what?
No one's interviewing today, but I can tell you, I know at least one of them's got an interview next week, at a different district in Buckhead. And, one of them who has a preference for the Missoula area will get picked up by a different district.
Are they able to know that those specific?
I can tell them.
Okay, I
I'm
just,
sorry, yeah.
and you can't tell us, and that's fine, I just
Yeah.
think they can know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there is time, we're at the time of year where if we've got someone we like, it's good to jump now, because if we get, like I have a district that I opened up today, which means they're gonna be interviewing at the end of March, like in April. The crowd is very different.
Wendy, for some perspective on the wage, and correct me if I don't repeat what you said, right, but St. Regis, for their superintendent was 140,000 a year?
Alberton.
Alberton. I knew it was close over there.
Alberton went to 140.
Alberton, believe that one, another Class C.
Have you been there?
Augusta is 100, I think right now they're at 105, but that is with the benefits. Her benefits are like 30,000, and I mean, I think they're in negotiations, which it's going up from there. I don't know, like, you know, how that's gonna go over, but I know that that's kind of,
So her actual wage is around 70?
I think she's at like, I could have swore it was like 90. I wanna say 90 and then 30 with benefits, and maybe she was trying to go up to one something.
We're desperately changing wage-wise for admin because there just aren't that many anymore.
Yeah.
So like Hamilton, who's a Class A, and obviously way bigger, they went to 160. They're the first, well, actually Whitefish is 163. So the A's are moving into the 150, 160s. The B's are, the majority of them are in the 120s to 140s already. And so the C's are, it's just a matter of what you can afford them to. You gotta be competitive, but at the same time, money is money. You only have so much of it. And Alberton made a choice they had two administrators. They were paying each about 90 to, and so the quality that they were getting was what you get when you pay someone 90. And so they decided to go down to one, and they're at 140, and then they're paying a stipend to a staff member to be the AD. So they're actually saving money, oddly enough. And their A and B is right around 150 this year. Yeah. So it's a calculated choice that they're making. But it changes the picture for the C's then too. And everyone else is saying, oh my God, we gotta get our salary up. But it hasn't blown up in the C's yet.
but our A and B is 135, right? Are we around
136.
136?
Yeah. And then one thing to follow up on that, we advertise it as a superintendent and principal duties.
Okay.
With budget, it would be nice to have an extra person, but you need teachers in the classroom. And it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. And it is long days, trying to get everything accomplished. And that it can be done. And I think unless the legislature does something to support schools, I think that's where you're kind of sitting at. And we have some tough choices maybe that we have to make, but we're not at the point that we can make decisions, but we're up against a wall as far as when the legislature gets out, when bills get passed, and when we have to negotiate. So there's a lot of things that are moving right now, and we've been working with Carol and Darcy to go back and forth, and when we think we have something else pops up, and it's like, okay, now how do we work this? And we've been very transparent with the staff. We knew coming in that we were on a fiscal cliff. And they all know that too. So everything's been above board, trying to talk, trying to look at things, come up with different strategies. But again, I think you need teachers in the classroom for the kids. And so we kind of go back and forth with things and try to figure it out.
Just out of curiosity and experience, Carol,
Yeah.
could you pinch and swing the minimal 90 as far as, like, can those funds come out of the excess fund,
Multi-district
yes.
and the flex fund.
I mean, if you had to rearrange accounts and get creative financing, is it something that you think that we could say bottom line, we could make this work?
Oh, we have to have a superintendent.
Yes, I mean.
So, we have to. Yeah. And we've got to get a good one, and we've got some good candidates here, so, of course, hopefully we'll start out somewhere in our range, but,
I guess that was my perspective of having you here for those decisions and talking, because I know you know it like the back of your hand. So to be able to you have gotten pretty crafty. So to be able to lend that experience, I think, because you do get what you pay for. I guess that would be my only advice, would be you get what you pay for, and opportunities come once you have to take them. If there's something in your heart that's speaking to you.
Yeah, we've been pretty creative this year, and we still have, we've still got some funds. Of course, it's like Kathy said, it's a bit of a fiscal cliff that we're having to sort out, and every time there's something new coming up, but this is one thing we have to have. So if we figure out who the best candidate, who we think is the best candidate, and figure it out.
She's gonna get craftier.
Yeah.
You gotta get creative with the numbers.
It was wonderful to have the COVID money. I mean, a lot of things got done. I mean, I was so excited that the bathrooms got redone. I was tired of painting those and then having the kids peel the paint off. So, I mean, things like that got accomplished that you didn't have to try to find in the budget. There were some great things that happened, and some upgrades and stuff like that. And that was great, but when that funding quit, that was it. And we're looking for options, and Joni's working with me right now on writing this literacy grant, but we're writing it for a person, and we're gonna hand it over and say, you have to do this. And it is funding, it'll help with curriculum, it can help with PD, it can help. But we're working with the staff because they have to buy-in. I mean, I can say, okay, sure, here it is. And if they don't buy in, then it doesn't work.
Right.
And pretty much the whole staff is behind it. But like I say, I'm writing it for somebody that I'm gonna hand it over to and say, okay, you are the lead of this now. But it's also a very competitive grant, and there's like 90 districts that are going after it. So we're like, and we don't find out about that one until the middle of May. So, and we have to make decisions prior to that.
And this one's a really big one. So.
Yeah. I can honestly say, like, I could work with any one of those people and be happy. I think they're all great candidates. I think you did a very good job.
Yes.
You guys are not hard to sell.
I liked the fact that they all have some superintendent experience.
Agreed. Not better than the last time we did it.
What's that?
It's a lot better than the last time we did it.
And they all sound like they have continued their education. It's not like they're all proponents of continuing their education, so I don't worry about getting that certificate, whereas in the past, a lot, you know, interviews that we've done, that has always been one of my number ones, is like, it's hard for me to want somebody who's gonna have to go back to schooling to do that, to be able to come into this and juggle both. But I felt like that was a strong point in all of them, as far as, I know I need to do these classes, however, I mean, when you have your doctorate and you're doing continuing education while you're still doing this position, it's not something that worried me on this go around at all. So that's comforting. Tough decisions, hack at it, kids.
We'll be back when we do. Just leave them open.
Just leave the buffers. Keep the buffers, so do it. So I can pause this.
Yep, it goes off.
Okay.
We'll see you soon.